Hey, party people. It's Brandi and Cesley, and we're back with Blooming Through Faith, the podcast that helps you grow and bloom in your mindset, lifestyle, health, and wealth. We want you to know that you are capable, beautiful, and worthy. Okay, guys. So today's episode is going to be It's going to be good.
Special.
It's going to be good. It's going to be special. Yes. And it also could be triggering, right? Because we are going to talk about a few things that we don't always talk about, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the journey of premature birth and beyond, going into loss and talking about the March of Dimes. So we have a special guest, Carly, on with us today. And you guys know personally, who know me and my story, you know that I've had a miscarriage in the first trimester. I've had one in the second trimester, losing faith at 16 weeks. And then our son, Cade, who is now 5 months, he was in the NICU for 11 days. So, this is really passionate subject for me. What we really want to do in this episode, guys, is one, we're looking to just educate everybody, right? We want to talk about a subject that just might be taboo and isn't talked about enough, right? We want everybody to be educated. We also want to make sure that any of our listeners, any women who have gone through loss or having a child in the NICU fighting for their life, we want them to not feel alone, because so many times this isn't talked about and we think, oh my gosh, why me? And it's not just us, right? So many friends, family members, so many people go through this. And we also want to help educate the friends and family members when somebody does go through it, right? So if you have a sister or if you have a friend who goes through a loss of a child or goes through having their child in the NICU, how do you handle that, right? What is appropriate to maybe say or do or not? So we really want to help everybody in this episode. So Carly, if you could please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Carly Johnson. So I am fairly new to March of Dimes myself, actually. I grew up always wanting to be a teacher because I've always wanted to help kids. So kids have just been a part of my life. Fast forward to about 2021, I got pregnant. I went through IVF. That's a whole nother story.
Yes.
And I had a great pregnancy. I had 0 complications. Nothing was wrong until week 27. I went and boom, everything changed. I had extremely high blood pressure where they ended up sending me to triage. So I went there, had protein in my urine, and I never made it back home. So they admitted me into the hospital. I was in the hospital for about 4 weeks. They wanted me to stay until I delivered, and they wanted to try and get me to 37 weeks, and that just didn't happen. So I was in the hospital for 4 weeks. Cooper, my son, came out at 32 weeks and 5 days.
Wow.
And so he spent 4 weeks in the NICU. He was born at 3 pounds, 14 ounces. He spent 4 weeks in the NICU. And then my good friends, our family friends, they went through a similar experience. So March of Dimes just kind of fell into our laps due to them. And it just touched my heart so much. And to be honest, I didn't really know a lot about March of Dimes either. It wasn't until I started to work for them and really understand everything that they have done. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Yeah.
My little baby's going to be two years old, and he's absolutely perfect.
I love it.
So perfect.
Yes.
Sweet Cooper.
Yes.
We love babies on this podcast. We're a big fan of children too. We love our kids. We talk about them all the time.
Yes.
And you're hearing your story is extremely inspirational. And this episode, I was telling Brandi actually earlier today that this episode couldn't come at a better time, especially even just for me as a friend of someone. One of my very best friends actually is in the hospital right now at almost 30 weeks pregnant. She was admitted about a week and a half ago, and we are patiently awaiting kind of the birth of her son. And so very similar story going on there. So I really am excited to dive into this and really learn not just more about the March of Dimes, but as a friend of someone who's going through this, like how we can be a better help, how we can be a better support system for them and their families. So so grateful. This couldn't have come at a better time. You know, I think God orchestrates all things in perfect timing. It's so great. So can you provide an overview for us of what March of Dimes does and just what its mission is?
Yeah, so we work to have all healthy moms and healthy babies. So for the health of all moms and babies through research, education, and advocacy. Um, a little bit about us. I'm sure, and again, no one really knows about March of Dimes, but everyone knows about March of Dimes.
Yeah, right.
So we started with the polio vaccine way back when. And I don't know if you girls remember this, but when I was in school, they would send home those little cardboard boxes and be like, send in all of your dimes.
I don't remember that.
I remember that. That's why I was like, I know what March of Dimes is, but I don't know what they
you don't know
do.
what it is.
But I remember having to like raise money for it.
Yes. So we actually funded the research for the polio vaccine. And then we kind of shifted to all healthy moms and healthy babies to help end preventable premature births and infant mortality. And we want to close the health equity gap. So again, and I didn't know this. So for that, we do a lot of where there's not like good hospitals or there's not OBGYNs. We actually have a mobile bus that goes to the women where they can go and see an OBGYN. Yeah, that's amazing.
That's incredible.
I just found that out. Yeah. So yeah, we just kind of do a lot of research. Another thing too, I just learned this, that we just helped fund the research of a test that will predict preeclampsia, which in my case, that has been life changing for me.
Yeah.
That's going to be life changing for a lot of women.
Yes.
I got goosebumps. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's a big win for us right now. But yeah.
Huge one. Thank you. Okay. So next question we have, what are some common misconceptions about miscarriage, premature birth, infant health that the March of Dimes aims to address?
It's the woman's fault.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it and again, for personal experience, what could I have done different? I'm sure your friend is thinking, what could she have done different? I mean, just everyone is like, we just, as women, I think, hold ourselves to that standard of, well, what did I do? How can I help? And so we really just want to help connect people and families to know that they're not alone. You don't have to go through this alone. There is a huge support system that you can connect to. So even if you do go through it, you have all of this support behind you.
Yeah.
I love that. And if I start crying on this episode, I'll apologize because
we're all gonna cry on this episode.
Probably because I know all too well that feeling of what could I have done different, or was this my fault?
Yes.
And it's not. And so I read a book, and we'll actually put the book in on our website too, because I can't remember the name right now, but it was a game changer for me with all of the education, because so many women think, and still to this day, oh, you lifted something heavy, that caused a miscarriage. Oh, you were stressed, you worked too hard. That's bullshit. That is not actually what happens, right? And so the fact that that is your biggest mission is to help women understand that's huge. That's really, really huge.
Yes.
And what are some, just on that same topic, what are some ways that, so just thinking even just to personal experience of having friends go through this, like where are the places where they can find those resources? So I know you said, we want them to feel like they're not alone. We want them to feel like they have a place to go to when they're feeling that way. So if someone does go through this and they are feeling this way, like where can we kind of turn them towards?
So our website, the March of Dimes website, because then it takes you to, it's called our Compass app. That's where you can connect with families. We do have a NICU. We have like a NICU family support system out there. However, unfortunately, Tampa Bay does not have one right now. I am trying to change that, just because, again, that could have been huge for me. I was relying on outside sources or friends who have gone through this to help get me through. So I think if we can help change that and bring it to Tampa, that obviously would be huge for everyone.
Now, does Texas have one? Because that's where Cesley's at. I'm thinking about her friend.
Yeah.
I am not sure. I can double check that.
But this is great to shine a light on because, I'm sure there's many of our women listening that, have gone through this and want to be a part of helping start this and grow this so that people have that.
Yep.
How prevalent is premature birth and what are some of the primary causes, would you say?
So now in Florida, since I'm in Florida, we are at a 10.6% of premature births. The national average is 10.4, so we're a little higher than that. Some of the causes are, smoking, hypertension, unhealthy weight, diabetes, you had previous premature births, or you're carrying multiple children. Those are mostly the main ones.
Common.
Yeah.
10% is a lot though. I feel like I didn't know that. And I'm like, 10%?
A lot.
10% of all babies being born are premature. That's a big chunk of the population.
I know. And fortunately, that number is going down. However, it's, like you said, it is still pretty high.
Yeah.
So I actually got something in my email the other day that was, and I will share this with Cesley, and it was about stillbirths, about how many stillbirths there are a day. It was like 60 or something. And then I looked up the percentage and it was high. And I'm like, what? Like, again, like Cesley was saying, like, I had no idea. And I've done a lot of research in this, how high it actually is.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay, so what are some common emotions and challenges that families may face after experiencing such a loss or even having babies in the NICU? How can you help them cope?
So, I mean, we kind of touched about it. It's families can feel very isolated and alone, which we aim to connect those families together, especially with here in Tampa, since we don't have that NICU unit. Our walk has really brought families together. And again, just like I was connected with, and Brandi, Corey is my great friend. He connected me with March of Dimes, and it's just, now it has opened up this whole other aspect of a community that I didn't know I really needed, but really needed.
Yeah. I love that because Corey's the reason why I was connected with March of Dimes as well.
Yes.
Corey out there just doing big things.
I don't know who Corey is, but I feel like they're just a connector. That's
you
great.
know what? Corey was
good on you, Corey.
He was a client of mine at Camp Gladiator.
Yes.
That's so great.
You like him even more because she's the
Camp
Gladiator trainer.
Corey, this episode you're probably not listening to, but if you're out there listening,
he's gonna listen to this episode.
You're a connector. We're proud of you.
We love you, Corey. Along those lines with the walk, I love it because I've donated to March of Dimes in the past, but last year was my first year doing the walk, and it was such a great environment and experience. So I know the Tampa Bay has 2 walks. I don't know if like all over, could you kind of tell us how many walks that you guys have? And is there going to be maybe like a 5K or a run in the future for March of Dimes?
So I'm not sure actually how many walks we have. I know in my region, so I'm region 2, we have like 4 walks on the same day. On April 13th, like all over. I know we have one in Nashville on the same day. I think we have one in like LA on the same day. So, I mean, it's very, very prevalent. We're everywhere pretty much. Can't kind of get rid of us. But
it's like you said, everyone's heard of it, but nobody really knows what they do.
But no one's heard of it. Like everyone knows what it is, but they don't know what it is.
Right. Yeah. So I would love just for some of our listeners to be able to hear, like, can you share, are there any success stories or milestones that March of Dimes has achieved in the field of maternal and infant health that you can share with us?
Yeah. So, and going back to, again, we started with the polio vaccine. And then I did not know this. I just found this out too, but we've funded the research for folic acid. Actually in Texas.
That's a great one.
Yeah, a town in Texas, there were a lot of babies who were being born with a defect, and we funded that folic acid actually helps prevent that defect. So then it just became a nationwide thing. We also had Dr. Apgard. So when a kid is first born, they are given the Apgard score. That's, I think, all over the world. It's for activity, pulse, grimace, appearance, and respiration. So it's like this 5-point test that, they prick their foot to see if they have the reflexes. They check their color to see if they're okay, if it's like a good color, not yellow. And so they do all of that. We came up with that. And then the preeclampsia test. And then another thing where actually I, again, did not know that Cooper received, but it's called surfactant therapy. It's for babies who their lungs are not fully developed to produce this gas that helps process oxygen. So we funded that. And so they are given surfactant therapy to help them process oxygen and breathe on their own. So that's a big one. Yes.
Yeah, I had no idea that the March of Dimes did. I mean, obviously we all know kind of the scope of what March of Dimes does, but they did so much for fetal medicine and maternal medicine, and just the progress of how many, I'm just thinking about how many infants and mothers have benefited from all of this research. Like, it's just so incredible to me.
Yes. Because again, it's like you don't know, but you do know. Like, again, folic acid, it's in all of our prenatal vitamins. Did you know why? No, I didn't.
No, I had no idea, actually. I just know that they tell you take folic acid.
Yes. Yes.
100%. And it is crazy too to think about how many kiddos are in the NICU. So I know when we were going through it, I was like, oh my gosh, this place is packed. Like, what?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of women who, and actually, Cecily, this is what we were talking about. Some women who have gone through numerous times. Like, I met a lady, and she's like, yeah, this is my third baby. And this is just like,
This is routine for them.
It was like routine for them. It's her body or circumstances or whatever it was. And I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine going through this more than once, right?
Yeah.
Seeing your baby connected to tubes, not being able to breathe, not being able to hold your baby in some circumstances. And for some families, it's just the normal.
Yeah, for sure. So on that same note, like, what advice would you give, just with your experience kind of and kind of being in that world all the time, what advice would you give to individuals who, like me, who want to offer support but may not know how to approach the topic? Like, what can we do? What can we say? How can we help when a baby is in the NICU, or when a mom is like my friend right now who's in the hospital, and we're kind of just not sure, what do we do?
So I think it's kind of like personal preference. Unfortunately, my sister went through a miscarriage, and she's the type of person who wants everyone to be around her. She wanted, all of the support, all of the love. She needed that. With me, I tend to push people away. So it's like I don't want anyone to like feel bad for me while I'm feeling bad for myself. So I think it just really depends on it. Cecily, your friend, which helped me a lot when I was in the hospital, is I had people come up and visit me every day. Like, there was on Mondays, this certain friend came to visit me. On Tuesdays, this certain friend came and brought me dinner. On Wednesdays, this friend would come and take me for a walk. I mean, it was just like for people to know that you're there to help them. It can be very isolating. And then when Cooper was in the NICU, we were going back and forth like 4 times a day, and I was just exhausted. I had friends come and drop off dinners. I had friends come and, send us Walmart grocery orders, just things that like mentally I could not process. And so so just being there and doing a lot. Yes.
Yeah.
I love what you just said. Sorry, I need to chime in real quick because everybody handles things differently. So for me, with my losses, I love the outpouring of love and connection and messages. I have somebody who's very close to me. She lost too. Nobody even knows that. She didn't want to even tell anybody, right? She's the opposite, just like you, like, hey, I don't want all of those messages. I will say another thing on the terms of like, hey, if you have a baby in the NICU or if you've lost a baby, I think, yes, food train, grocery delivery. And another thing was house cleaner. Like you don't even think about that, right? That's something that you can't even fathom, but it is, I'm so thankful when that happened, right? So I think those things really do make a big difference. And of course, even, flowers or little things like that, just to say, hey, I know, that you're there, you're thinking about me, those things. But I love what you said about everybody's a little different. And I just wanted to also add something about when you have like a loss. So for me, when I went through my losses, I was still getting emails through things that I signed up for. I was getting mail for things that I signed up for. And that was big. Those are triggers for me. I was pissed. I was like, this is, so if you have a friend who has gone through loss, maybe get their email and unsubscribe, or ask if you can, or hey, if you're a husband or a friend, get the mail and make sure there's nothing triggering in there for their baby that was to come. And another thing that I wanted to add with my loss of faith that I didn't know because nobody told me this, I started having milk. So I lost my daughter, I birthed her vaginally at 16 weeks. And then 3 days later, I was producing milk. And that was hard. There was no paper. There was no doctor. There was nothing that I read that was like, this could be a possibility that happened. So I'm just throwing that out there in this podcast, just for awareness that can happen.
Yes. Yep.
And this is a question maybe for both of y'all going through different but similar kind of circumstances. Really, what's something that you guys maybe like, what's the best way to phrase this? What is something that you wish that your friends could know going through it? Like, what's something that you really want people to know, like when you're going through it, maybe how you're feeling, or what, like, that you maybe weren't able to tell them at the time, or that people didn't really know at the time? Like, for anyone going through this that's a friend, like, what is something that you want them to know about this process and how it feels?
I would say personally for me, it was like I was overwhelmed. Any little thing overwhelmed me. It was just, and like again, mentally I couldn't like make decisions, or I couldn't, it was again, like I would come out of, our morning visit, we would be crying happy tears. And then, our afternoon visit, we would come out crying not so happy tears. So it was just like, and I'm the type of person where it's like I cannot control my emotions, and if something happens, like I snap at people. So that's another big thing. It's like I wanted my friends to know that I was very overwhelmed, and even if they didn't say anything mean and I just would snap at them, it's not something that they said. Like I still needed and wanted that support. That's just how I was reacting.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's really good. That's really good for people to know, because I think that's, you would think like common sense would tell us, hey, our friends are really hurting, like just kind of be a net to catch them. But it's important to, I think we forget sometimes, even being on the phone every day with my friend who's in the hospital, I forget sometimes that, she sounds so easygoing on the phone and seems like everything's okay, normal doctor's visits. And you can forget very easily, like, wow, every moment can feel so overwhelming. Like, just giving so much grace and just being like, I'm just here to catch what you need can be really helpful.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so good. I would say, Cecily, for me personally, with the loss of faith, since I held her and I got pictures with her, it was, I wanted to talk about her, but no, I wanted to share photos of her. I am proud to be her mother, right?
Yeah.
And so when meeting with family members and friends, it's like something they didn't want to talk about. It was kind of like, hey, how are you doing? But I don't want to talk about her. Or even, I would always ask, do you want to see photos? Because I know that could be hard for somebody. I would never just be like, hey, I want to show you photos. I always ask. But that was really, really healing. And it still is. I actually posted, the banner that I did of March of Dimes is the first time I posted a photo of her. And so
I saw that.
was,
that was really proud of you. Actually, I was so excited when I saw, I mean, not excited. That's not the right word, but like, I was I was happy for you that you were able to share that. That was a huge, huge deal. So is it okay maybe to ask, like, do you guys think it was okay to ask a friend, like, hey, do you want to talk about this? Or do you want me to ask about this, or do you not?
Yeah. I think always start off with the fact of like, hey, is it okay if I ask?
Yeah.
Or are you okay to talk about it? We don't have to, because again, my sister was very open. She wanted to talk about it with me.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. So I do think with people leading into that, like,
Finding
hey,
out their
do you want to
preference.
talk about it, is
Yeah.
good.
That is
Love
so
it.
good.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump to the next question. How can workplaces or communities better support employees or members who have experienced pregnancy loss or babies in the NICU?
Time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't get, the paid time off that other countries or other places do. But I mean, that's honestly the best thing is just time and support. I mean,
Yeah.
just an understanding. I mean, it takes us a long time to process everything. I mean, it was like we were in the NICU for 4 weeks, so we had to process all of that. And then when we came home, we had a whole new world to process and everything where it was like, fortunately for me, I didn't go back to my teaching job. So it was like I could take that time to really process everything. But if I had to go back to work, I think I would have been more of a mess than I was at home. I mean, just
Yeah.
Yeah,
time.
that's so
Is
good.
there a I don't think there's ever a good way, but is there a way that you recommend kind of approaching your workplace when you're going through this to be able to have that conversation with them? Like, what have you found is have you talked to other people about this, or is this something that, does that make sense? I don't know, it's kind of a hard question.
Yeah, because I think it's different for workplaces and
Yeah.
in different environments and situations because unfortunately a lot of a lot of parents don't have the opportunity to take that time off, right? And like you
Yeah.
said, you're going back and forth. They have to work, they have to provide. It's just not an ideal situation. And you can't just the workplaces can give you grace, but at the same time, if they're
They
not,
can. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you are an employer listening to this,
Give grace, give
pay
more
attention.
time.
Yes.
I want
Give more time.
I
Yes.
also want
Great.
to kind of piggyback on going back to what can family members do and help out. So like for me, I had a child at home when I had a child in the NICU, and it was hard. So it was being home with him and then going to the NICU the whole time that he was in there and then coming back home, vice versa. I think family members and friends who can help out if you have other children, whether that's school drop off, whether that's weekends. So I have my sister-in-law. She's like, hey, I can come pick Troy up and take him to Busch Gardens while you guys go to the NICU this Saturday. I'm like, okay, yeah, that is great, right? So having family members to help with the other children, if you have other children as well, is helpful.
Yeah. I mean, or friends if you don't
Yeah.
have family members close by.
Yes.
Yeah. So what is I know we talked a little bit about kind of the research that you guys have done in the past and some big milestones. What are the main ongoing research efforts or programs that are focused on really addressing the needs of families dealing with loss that March of Dimes is involved in?
I'm sorry. Can you
Yeah,
repeat?
I can repeat the question.
Thank you.
Okay. So research,
Yeah.
research that you guys do a wide variety of research, right? So
Yes.
what research do y'all do specifically? Or maybe it's just programs, like what programs or research do y'all have that helps as far as understanding and addressing families dealing with loss?
Yeah. So that's more of like our programs. Again, our website and our app, they offer great resources. They offer, articles, and then two, families connections. So just so you know, you're not alone.
Yeah.
I love that. Connection is everything, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I know going through my journey when I posted about it, there were so many people who reached out, and that's how I kind of learned about Corey too. But there were over 70 people, friends and family, that have reached out that had gone through a miscarriage in the first trimester, second trimester, stillbirth. And then when I had my baby in the NICU, there was again I think it was like almost 100 people were like, oh, my baby was in the NICU. I'm like,
Incredible.
wait, what?
Yeah.
So you really don't realize how often this is happening,
Yeah.
especially before social media when people weren't sharing. And I know
Yeah.
there's also, speaking of social media, I know there's also Facebook groups for those in the NICU. And I know that the Brandon, that's where my baby was, Brandon NICU, they have a Facebook support group. So there's also support groups as well.
Yep.
All of that.
Yep.
Love that.
Okay, another question for you. How can individuals and communities get involved with the March of Dimes to help support your mission?
Go on our website. We do a lot of fundraisers. So our big one is our walk that's coming up. We do a golf tournament. We have a signature chefs, so like a big fancy dinner
Ooh,
party.
I know that
But
sounds
I mean,
fancy.
yeah, yeah. But it's just, I mean, donating and then volunteering for these events. It's really that's what we need is the donations and the volunteering.
Yeah, love that. So, as we kind of wrap up towards the end of this episode, we know that there are so many women that have gone through this. I mean, so many more than we even thought. And like you said, community and connection is the most important thing. And so if there was, having gone through these things yourself and being a part of the March of Dimes, what is there any specific, just like kind of final thoughts or testimony of hope that you'd like to leave for our listeners? Maybe people who have gone through this or are currently going through this that might be listening, that that we can just leave them with?
I think the main thing is it's not your fault. Um, that was a big one. It's not your fault, and there is support out there, and there is help, and it's please accept and be willing to accept the help and the support, and just know that again, it is not your fault.
I love that,
Yeah.
Carly. Be
Yeah.
willing to accept the support because so many women want to just say, I can do this. I'm okay, until you're not okay, until
Yeah.
it hits you, until you have a breakdown, right? So give yourself grace and accept the support and the help. I love that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so as we come to an end to our conversation today, we just really wanted to give you gratitude and just say thank you so much, Carly, for sharing your insights, your experiences, your passion in raising awareness, everything, including with March of Dimes. Okay, so your words have touched our hearts and have opened our minds to challenges faced by families all around the world. So not just here in Florida, right? Not just in Texas,
Yeah.
like all
Everywhere.
around the world. Let us remember that every baby deserves a fighting chance and every parent deserves the support and compassion to navigate the journey of premature birth. So together we can continue to advocate, educate, and empower one another to create a world where every pregnancy is healthy and every baby thrives. So thank you for joining us on this important journey, and may we all be inspired to make a difference in the lives of those affected by premature birth and loss.
And to all of our beautiful, incredible listeners, we want you to remember that you are worthy, you are capable, you are beautiful, and we can't wait to watch you grow, girl.